Welcome to the world of science fiction stories, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and share the channel. Enjoy the listening. They said no one could build it. Humans proved them wrong. Tom Miller shifted uncomfortably in his seat. The chair, designed for beings with very different body shapes, dug into his back. He was the only human in the Grand Council chamber of Nexus Prime, the massive space station where the Galactic Council held its meetings. The room itself was impressive, a huge dome with stars visible through the clear ceiling. Around a U-shaped table sat the representatives of the 12 most powerful species in the galaxy. Some looked almost human, while others were completely alien, from the crystal-bodied Vex to the blue-skinned water brothers like Nara. All of them had been traveling among the stars for thousands of years before humans had even invented the wheel. And all of them were now talking about a problem that affected millions of lives across the galaxy. The energy shortage on the frontier worlds has reached crisis levels, said Counselor Dren, whose green skin wrinkled with concern. 3 colonies have already been abandoned. More will follow soon. Counselor Nara, whose blue skin shimmered under the bright lights, gestured with her webbed hands. The distant worlds simply consume more energy than we can transport to them. Even our fastest ships take too long to deliver fuel. Tom listened carefully. Earth had only joined the galactic community 50 years ago, when alien ships first landed in major cities across the planet. Humans were still seen as newcomers, barely trusted with the simplest technology. At these meetings, he was usually expected to sit quietly and learn. Counselor Vex rose from his seat, his crystal body catching the light. There is a theoretical solution, a Dyson ring. The chamber went silent. Tom had heard of Dyson spheres, megastructures built around stars to capture their energy. A Dyson ring would be a smaller version, capturing perhaps 30% of a star's output instead of all of it. The energy captured would solve the frontier problems for centuries. Vex continued. However, I mention it only as a theoretical concept. Building such a structure is, of course, impossible, quite impossible. Agreed, Nara said. The gravitational calculations alone would require computational power beyond even our most advanced systems. Another counselor, a 6-legged being named Nam Kral, added, the material requirements are absurd. No known substance could withstand the stresses involved. Tom frowned. In his 5 years as Earth's representative, he had noticed something about the older species. They were brilliant and advanced, but they were also careful, too careful perhaps. They rarely tried anything truly new anymore. Before he could stop himself, Tom spoke up. Earth would be willing to attempt building the Dyson ring. The silence that followed was brief, broken by sounds that Tom recognized as laughter from a dozen different species. Ambassador Miller, said Vex kindly, as if speaking to a child, your enthusiasm is noted, but humans have been spacefaring for less than a century. The Dyson ring has been deemed impossible by civilizations with million-year histories of engineering. Nara's voice was gentler. The physics involved are beyond even our understanding, Ambassador. No offense, but if we cannot build it, humans certainly cannot. Tom felt his face grow hot, but he kept his voice calm. Humans have a history of achieving impossible things, counselors. Sometimes fresh eyes see solutions that experienced ones miss. This is not about building a slightly better spaceship, Kral said. This is about constructing a megastructure around a star. The scale is beyond your comprehension. The council moved on to other topics, but Tom couldn't let go of the idea. As the meeting ended, he approached Vex. If Earth were to attempt the Dyson Ring project, would the council object? Vex seemed amused. No, Ambassador. The council would not object to an impossible project. The attempt itself would be educational for your species. Then may we have access to the theoretical plans, all the research that's been done on the concept. Vex hesitated, then nodded. I see no harm in that. I'll have the files transferred to your systems. But Ambassador, don't raise false hopes among your people. This project cannot succeed. 3 weeks later, Tom stood in a large conference room in Houston, Earth. On the screens around him were the faces of some of Earth's brightest minds, scientists, engineers, and builders from around the planet. They say it can't be built, Tom concluded after explaining the Dyson ring concept. They've convinced themselves it's impossible. Kate Reed, a physicist known for her unconventional theories, snorted. People said the same thing about flying machines once, and space travel, added Miguel Ortiz, a materials engineer who had developed new alloys for Mars habitats. Jack Thompson, a construction expert with more wrinkles than a dried apple, leaned forward. Son, throughout history, the most important projects started with someone saying it can't be done. Then someone else does it anyway. Tom smiled. This was exactly the reaction he had hoped for. The aliens think we'll fail. They think we'll learn our limits and settle into our place in the galactic order. Well, they don't know humans very well, do they? Kate said, her eyes bright with excitement. I've already spotted 3 flaws in their gravitational models. They're too perfect to buy the book. Miguel was scanning the material specifications. They're only considering known materials, but I've been working on some nanostructured composites that might handle these stresses. The construction approach is all wrong too, Jack muttered, studying the plans. Too complicated. There are simpler ways to build big. Tom looked around at their excited faces and felt a surge of hope. So you think it might be possible? Kate grinned. Possible. I'd say it's inevitable. The math works out if you approach it differently. I'll need a proper team and a budget. And access to the asteroid belt for raw materials, Miguel said. Jack nodded. And we'll need a construction site far from Earth, something close to Jupiter maybe, where we can test in different gravity. Tom took a deep breath. I'll secure the funding and permissions. We'll need to work quietly at first. If we fail, I don't want Earth to lose face. We won't fail, Kate said firmly. How can you be so sure? Tom asked. Because, Jack answered with a smile that crinkled his entire face. They said it couldn't be built, and nothing motivates humans more than being told something is impossible. 6 months passed quickly. The asteroid base near Jupiter, now called Impossible Station by the human team, buzzed with activity. What had started with just 3 experts had grown into a team of 50 top scientists and engineers from Earth. The base itself was simple but effective. A hollowed-out asteroid with pressurized chambers connected by metal tunnels. In the main research dome, Kate Reed stood before a huge transparent board covered in equations and diagrams. The aliens' math isn't wrong, she explained to Tom, who had come to check on her progress. It's just too perfect, too rigid. Tom watched as she added more symbols to the already crowded board. What do you mean? They approach everything logically, step by step, but that's not how the universe actually works. Kate pointed to a section of complex calculations. See here? When they hit a calculation problem, they stop. They say this is where it becomes impossible. But humans, she smiled, we guess. We make logical leaps. We use intuition. Across the room, a small group of alien observers watched with barely hidden amusement. The Galactic Council had sent them to monitor the human project and report back. None of them expected success. Intuition is not a scientific method, said one observer, a tall being named Zol with pale skin. Maybe not, Kate replied without looking up from her work. But it's very human, and sometimes it works where pure logic fails. In another chamber of the base, Miguel Ortiz was surrounded by material samples and testing equipment. He had been working for weeks on creating a substance that could withstand the extreme stresses of the Dyson ring. As Tom entered, Miguel cursed as he knocked over his coffee mug. The hot liquid spilled across his workbench, flowing over a sample of experimental nanomaterial. Sorry about the mess, Miguel said, grabbing a cloth to clean up. Then he stopped, staring at the sample. Wait, that's interesting. Tom looked over his shoulder. What is? The coffee. It's caused a reaction in the nanomaterial. Miguel quickly placed the sample under a microscope, then let out a whoop of joy. The heat and compounds in the coffee have created exactly the kind of molecular bonding I've been trying to achieve for weeks. You discovered a crucial material by spilling coffee, asked Zol from the doorway, his voice filled with disbelief. Miguel grinned. Sometimes the best discoveries happen by accident. The history of human science is full of such moments. He carefully placed the sample in a testing chamber. I think we just solved our material strength problem. The alien observer left the room, shaking his head. In the largest chamber of the base, Jack Thompson had created what looked like a strange playground. Models of different shapes and sizes hung from the ceiling. On the floor, robotic arms moved pieces of metal into various formations. What's all this? Tom asked, looking around in confusion. I'm testing construction methods, Jack explained. He pointed to a model that looked like a pyramid. The ancient Egyptians built massive structures using simple tools and clever techniques. Here, he moved to another model. The Polynesians navigated vast oceans using just the stars and currents. But we have advanced technology now, Tom said, puzzled. Yes, and we'll use it, but the old ways have wisdom too. Jack activated a small demonstration where tiny robots arranged blocks in a specific pattern. I'm combining ancient building techniques with modern robotics. The aliens think too complicated. Sometimes simpler is better. That evening, Tom met with the three experts in the base's small meeting room. The alien observers were filing their daily reports to the council. So, what's our progress? Tom asked. Kate spoke first. My new computational approach works. I solved the gravitational equations by using a combination of quantum algorithms and what I call educated guesswork. The aliens never considered this approach because it's not purely logical. Miguel held up a small cube of shimmering material. And I've developed this. I'm calling it CoffeeCom, he grinned. It has exactly the properties we need for the ring's core structure. Lightweight but stronger than anything the aliens have. My construction methods are ready for testing too, Jack added. Using swarms of small robots rather than a few big machines will make building the ring much faster and more adaptable. Tom looked at them with amazement. So you're saying it's actually possible? We can build the Dyson ring? Not only possible, Kate said with confidence, but we can do it better and faster than anyone expects. And what about the alien observers? Tom asked. What are they reporting back? They think we're making interesting progress that will ultimately fail, Miguel said with a laugh. Sol told me directly that our approaches are creative but unsustainable. Jack snorted. They're stuck in their ways. They've been building things the same way for thousands of years. They can't imagine a different approach might work. The meeting was interrupted when Zol entered the room. The alien looked uncomfortable. I have just received a message from the council, he said formally. They are surprised by your progress. Counselor Vex will be arriving tomorrow to inspect your work personally. After Zol left, Tom turned to his team with concern. This could be trouble. If the council decides our project threatens the galactic order somehow, then we better have something impressive to show them, Kate said firmly. Let's get to work. Through the night, the human team prepared demonstrations of their innovations. As the station's lights dimmed to simulate night, creating a more comfortable working environment for the humans, activity continued in all research chambers. In her private notes, Kate wrote, The aliens don't understand us. They think our greatest strength is our technology, but it's not. It's our creativity, our willingness to take risks, to try the untried. They've been among the stars so long they've forgotten how to dream. But we haven't, and that's why we'll succeed where they failed. 1 year after Tom first proposed the Dyson Ring project, the construction site around a small red dwarf star buzzed with activity. What had begun as a small team had grown into a massive operation. Thousands of engineers, scientists, and construction workers from Earth now worked together on what many still called the impossible project. From the observation deck of the command ship, Tom looked out at the growing structure. Already they had completed nearly 1% of the ring. It wasn't much compared to the final design, but it was proof that humans could do what the galaxy's oldest civilizations had deemed impossible. Impressive, isn't it? Kate said, joining him at the window. The first segment is already capturing enough energy to power the entire construction operation. Tom nodded. And the council can't ignore our progress anymore. Indeed, news of the human project had spread throughout the galaxy. Some alien races watched with interest, others with concern. The Galactic Council maintained its official position that the project would ultimately fail, but privately many counselors were becoming worried. Below them, massive factory ships converted asteroid material into the specialized components designed by Miguel. His CoffeeCom material had proven even better than expected. Lightweight, incredibly strong, and able to withstand the extreme conditions near a star. Swarms of construction robots programmed with Jack's algorithms moved through space like schools of fish, placing each component with perfect precision. The robots worked together in ways inspired by Earth's natural systems. Ants building colonies, bees constructing hives, and humans raising ancient monuments. Kate called Miguel over the communication system. We've got a problem with Section 14. The gravitational readings are off. Kate rushed to her console and pulled up the data. Her fingers flew over the controls as she adjusted her mathematical models. I see it, she said. The star just had a minor flare that affected the local gravity field, redirecting construction robots to compensate. On the main screens, they could see the robot swarms shifting their patterns, adjusting their work to account for the new calculations. This kind of rapid adaptation was exactly what made the human approach different. Where alien engineers might have stopped to recalculate everything from scratch, Kate's systems simply adjusted on the fly. Ambassador Miller called a crew member. Counselor Vex has arrived and requests to inspect the construction. Tom straightened his uniform. Right on schedule. Let's go greet him. The crystalline form of Counselor Vex seemed to shimmer with barely contained surprise as Tom guided him through the construction command center. I must admit, Ambassador, your progress is unexpected, Vex said carefully. Though you've built less than 1% of the total structure, the complexities increase exponentially from here. Tom smiled. We're well aware, Counselor, but our adaptive systems are designed to handle increasing complexity. Indeed. Vex studied the screens showing construction data. And what of the material stresses? Our models predict failure once the structure reaches 5% completion. Those models didn't account for our new materials, Miguel explained, joining them. He handed Vex a small sample of coffee calm. This can withstand forces 10 times greater than your models predicted would be necessary. Vex held the material, his crystalline fingers testing its strength. Remarkable. And this was accidental. A happy accident, Miguel confirmed. But recognizing its potential wasn't accidental at all. They continued the tour, showing Vex the robot construction swarms and the energy collection systems already in operation. Throughout it all, the counselor remained polite but skeptical. Impressive progress, he admitted as the tour concluded. But you've completed the easiest parts first. The true challenges lie ahead. After Vex departed for his return to the council, Tom felt a mixture of pride and concern. The alien races were finally taking the human project seriously, which brought new attention, not all of it welcome. That night, as most of the crew slept, alarms blared throughout the command ship. What's happening? Tom demanded, rushing into the control room, still pulling on his uniform jacket. Jack was already there, his face grim. Structural failure in Section 3. We're losing it. On the screens, they could see a critical support beam breaking apart. As it failed, the surrounding structures began to collapse. 3 months of work was being destroyed before their eyes. Get the repair robots out there now, Kate ordered. We need to contain the damage. For hours, they fought to save what they could. By morning, the situation was under control, but the damage was extensive. Nearly a quarter of their completed work had been destroyed. It wasn't an accident, Jack said grimly, holding up a piece of debris that had been brought in for analysis. The support beam was weakened deliberately. Sabotage. A heavy silence fell over the room. Tom looked at the faces of his team, tired, dirty, but still determined. Who would do this? Miguel asked. The council. Tom shook his head. I don't think so. Vex seemed genuinely impressed by our work, but there are many in the galaxy who don't want to see the power balance shift. If humans succeed where the older races failed, we threaten the established order, Kate finished. So what do we do now? Jack asked. We've lost months of work. Tom looked out the window at the damaged section of the ring, then back at his team. They expected us to fail from the beginning. This changes nothing except our timeline. We rebuild, stronger than before, and we increase security. I'll design new sensors to detect any tampering, Kate added. Miguel nodded. I'll strengthen the critical components, make them more resistant to sabotage. And I'll review the construction sequences, Jack said. Add redundancies so that a single failure can't cause a cascade. Tom looked at his team with pride. This was what humans did best. Adapt, overcome, and grow stronger from setbacks. Where other species might see failure and give up, humans saw a challenge to meet. Send a message to Earth, he told his communications officer. We need more people, more resources, and send a message to the council as well. What should it say, sir? The officer asked. Tom smiled grimly. Tell them construction continues on schedule. Tell them the Dyson ring will be completed as planned. As the team dispersed to begin repairs, Tom remained at the window, looking out at the stars. Someone had tried to stop them, someone who feared what would happen if humans succeeded. That meant that they were on the right track. They said it couldn't be built, he murmured to himself. We're going to prove them wrong. 2 years into the Dyson Ring project, the structure was an impressive sight. Nearly 15% of the giant circle around the red dwarf star was complete. The finished sections already captured enormous amounts of energy, enough to power several frontier worlds. The sabotage attack had only made the human team stronger. They had rebuilt the damaged sections with improved materials and better security systems. The work moved faster than before, as if the setback had only increased their determination. In the main control room of the command ship, Kate stared at her screens with growing concern. For days she had been running new calculations, checking and rechecking her results. The news wasn't good. Tom, we need to talk, she said when the project leader entered the room. Privately, they moved to a small meeting room. Kate closed the door and projected a model of the Dyson ring onto the table between them. "We have a serious problem," she said. Her usual confidence was gone. "My models predict that once we reach 20% completion, a resonance pattern will develop here, here, and here." She pointed to 3 spots on the ring model that began to glow red. "Resonance," Tom whispered.